In 2012, when I was 13, I went to the movie theater and I remember seeing something that at the time felt like magic to me. The first Avengers movie. Now, feels a little bit silly to say it now, but at the time, I was like a kid/teenager sort of situation, and yeah, it was the accumulated buildup of like 5 movies, I think, getting to know all these different heroes, loving them and all their little quirks, and now they're there, in front of my face, interacting with each other. All those movies are connected. Since then, that movie has made over $1.5 billion. Marvel has created the most successful cinematic universe of all time. For a while, it really felt like every single movie that would come out under this sort of MCU umbrella will make like around $1 billion or so. A cool little Billy, a nice little chill Billy to put in your pocket. And I have successfully managed to double in age. That's a fact that's truly only sunk in now. Now, throughout the process of my doubleage, I have ended up experiencing many more cinematic universes. For a while, it felt like they would just pop up every single year or so, trying to achieve what Marvel did, only to eventually fizzle out and fail. Or, at some points, just not even fizzle out, just combust straight out of the gate. I've actually made a list for all of you guys to look at. I call it the universe of post-MCU cinematic universes. Let me know if you've heard about these. People have sunk hundreds of millions, so you know about them. Let me know if you do. The Dark Universe, terminated. DCEU or DCU, terminated, then rebooted. Hasbro Cinematic Universe. I'm not even fully sure if they're going for this one. At the end of 2023, the 2023 Transformers movie, they take the guy from Hamilton to like a warehouse and they're like, hey, look, here's a bunch of tech, and here's a card that we're gonna give you, and here's G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe and Transformers, they're in the same universe. Start getting excited. It's the true epitome of a who gives a crossover. I'm gonna put like an I don't know on that one. The Madam Webiverse, that includes Venom, Morbius, Craven, all this shit. They lose money all the time. Strong rumors that they're terminated. Monsterverse, actually doing alright. They're doing alright. People like their Godzilla and King Kong. And maybe the Dark Tower universe. I don't really know if that one counts. They kind of just did one movie. I don't know if like they really went for this thing or we're just kind of like testing the waters. I don't know if that counts. I'm not going to go in depth about it, but I guess that one exists. Sort of. Terminated though. Terminated. That's what we're putting on that one. And Marvel is still obviously ongoing. So yeah, out of this big list, two cinematic universes. I guess, they haven't officially announced that the Morbius-verse is gone. But come on, guys. come on, let's pack it up. You gave it your best shot to do this weird thing, and or maybe continue. It's pretty funny. Maybe keep going. I'll also say that I see a cinematic universe and a franchise as, connected but sort of different things. Obviously, a cinematic universe is a franchise, but a cinematic universe has to have that moment in it, that shoehorned sort of situation, and you're like, okay, that's nice, man. And the movie's like, no, don't you get it? Transformers, G.I. Joe, it's the same thing. And you're like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, that's cool, man. That's neat that you own these things. Now, you might be able to tell that the original sentiment, the excitement that I described earlier, has kind of fizzled out when it comes to the concept of cinematic universes, and I don't think I'm alone here. There's a reason so many of these have failed. Even Marvel, which is obviously still up and running, still making a lot of money, is starting to have some movies that lose money. That's not a thing that was happening up until a few years ago. The cinematic universe thing is not as strong of a selling point. And for example, with Fantastic Four, Marvel's already dabbling in doing their first out of the MCU movie since Disney bought this whole thing. There are a few reasons for this sort of fatigue that I can think of. One, while it can be cool, I think a lot of people felt like this was often nothing but a cheap sales tactic, especially from some of the, with the Dark Universe. One of those scam courses that people do where at the end of it, they're like, hey, if you really want to figure out how to make money, you gotta buy the next course and the one after that and the one after that and the one too. Harder to tell small stories, Rewatching Daredevil right now, and it's great, but every now and again I'm like, this guy, he doesn't have a lot of powers. Why is he dealing with all this world-ending stuff by himself? Where the is Thor? The context of a world like this is always kind of in the back of your mind. And 3, a lot of these projects were rushed as hell. But more than anything, I truly believe that a lot of this just genuinely comes down to, some pretty disappointing movies. As a moviegoer, giving a cinematic universe a chance, the more bad movies you see, the less you're gonna end up showing to the next one in this sort of universe. And then when there is one that you want to watch, you're not really gonna understand as much of what's going on, maybe making you miss the next one, and the one after that, maybe because they're referencing like the Eternals or something, and maybe you haven't seen that. The thing that makes cinematic universes so profitable can often work against it. So okay, what I'm gonna do now is kind of inspired by Taught in the Shadows' series Train Records. I'm gonna tell the tales of all these different cinematic universes and some of their demises while trying to figure out, is there a specific movie that did it? Which one made people be like, hey, I don't think I'm gonna turn up to the next one. And you know what? We're gonna start off strong with
a warning of monsters.
Alright, so this is probably the most embarrassing one. The embarrassing starts when you look this thing up on Google and it doesn't even show up as the first thing. Usually, like, Google really prioritizes media-related stuff at the top of the results, but here you get the explanation for the Science-y Dark Universe, which, that's a good thing. So let me give you a bit of a rundown. The Dark Universe was created out of a deep passion, a creative yearning from Universal executives to figure out, hey, how can we make money out of all of these IPs that we own? Universal has the rights to some of media's most iconic monsters and ghouls. They have Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, the Bride of Frankenstein, the Wolfman, the Mummy, the creature from the Black Lagoon, and the Invisible Man. He's actually right here. He's in this video. And throughout the past 100 years or so, they've routinely come back to these characters to create new stories with them. Now, in 2017, reacting, if I may say, quite late to the whole, cinematic universe, Marvel madness, Universal was like, hey, put me in, coach. This is an article from May of that year talking about the announcement. On the 22nd of May, Universal Pictures unveiled its Dark Universe, an umbrella under which its monster movies will be released. At least 5 films are on the way, including The Invisible Man with Johnny Depp, Dr. Jekyll. It's just crazy reading this because none of these movies exist. Dr. Jekyll starring Russell Crowe, Frankenstein's Monster starring Javier Bardem, and Bride of Frankenstein not yet cast. But the future of the universe hinges on the performance of June 9th's The Mummy, a Tom Cruise-led reboot of a trilogy of films starting in 1999. There are also rumors of a Wolfman reboot. Have this visual in your head. There was also a rumor of a Wolfman reboot starring The Rock. I'm The Rock. I'm a Wolfman. That would be his catchphrase. Okay, so this whole universe was basically gonna have a similar vibe to the Morbiverse, the Morbius-averse. The one with all the Spider-Man villains, and they're like, hey, maybe what if all these villains were kind of chill, though? What if they were cool? Tom Cruise is the Mummy, but he's kind of chill. Javier Bardem is a chill and relaxed Frankenstein's monster. You can smoke a doobie with him. Puff Puff Pass with Dracula. Dracula's like, I don't even want to do anything bad. I'm so chilled out right now. I'm just a misunderstood little hot boy. As part of this announcement, Universal also released this now infamous image. Here it is, next to my head. This was really the start of the shit show, I'd say. It really set the tone. Hey, you know how Marvel carefully curated this sort of world, bit by bit, connecting little tidbits here and there until finally getting this full image. That. We're just going straight out the gate, guns blazing, we're doing 5 movies. There's a seriously bad vibe coming in from this picture, don't you think? Can't you feel it? No one is happy to be there. And guess what? It was later found out that no one was there. Period. They weren't even in the same room. They were all composited into it, stitched forcefully to be in the same space as each other. I guess a perfect metaphor for this attempt. Okay, so what was the movie that did it? Well, in this case, There's only one movie, baby. Only one. Makes my job pretty easy. I will address that some people think that Dracula Untold is actually the first movie in this universe, because that one scene where the guy says,
Let the games begin.
but A, Dracula is not in that stupid picture. B, I reckon it was supposed to be the thing that starts the universe, but then it did really bad critically, so they probably abandoned it. C, I'm not watching that shit. Now, The Mummy was off to a not so great start from the get-go. I'd even say pre-get-go. The trailer was accidentally posted in this interesting form where I'm gonna show you.
Pan, this is November 4-0-9er.
What the hell?
And I hope you're ready for this. Let's watch like 2 more seconds. Okay, that's it. Universal's gonna take my video. This is fair use though, I'm commentating on this. I'll say a comment. This is stupid. Alright, fair use. Now you might be wondering, how long was this up for? An hour or two? God forbid a day? They had this embarrassing video up for the public to watch and mock for 6 whole days. 6 days. People had to really sink in this, like, you know, this footage of Tom Cruise flopping about in a plane and being like, ah! So yeah, with that etched into everyone's brain, people went to see this movie. I recently got to see this for the first time, and hey, was it good? I wouldn't say so. Tom Cruise, he just goes around the world stealing old artifacts, sometimes from graves. He's there with Jake Johnson, and they have their chemistry is just like screaming at each other throughout the whole thing.
That's just great!
Tom Cruise turned his charisma off for this movie. He has no charisma in this. He lost it somehow. He got it back in movies that came out after that, but no charisma in this one. After like going to some like mummy location, Jake Johnson gets bit by a spider and he becomes some like asshole that keeps trying to kill everyone. So it's kind of like a reverse Spider-Man, pretty much, which, you know, it's kind of funny considering. Oh, and there's one scene where, you know, let's just play it. Can we play this?
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop!
Fascinating.
The fun Indiana Jones-esque vibe of the 1999 Mummy movie is replaced by a more grounded and dark tone, which is lame. I think what made that 1999 movie so much fun is the fact that it didn't go for that, you know? It's a ridiculous movie, but, you know, it's kind of like a blast. This whole, like, let's do a grounded take of a thing is just I guess the lingering effects of Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy. I like those movies, but I don't like all the boring stuff that I had to see when people were like, I'm gonna try and make this. There's like 3 different rounds of like an information exposition dump. Let's show a few seconds of each one. Here's the first one, that's a news information dump.
The tomb appears to have been built during the Second Crusade, which means it's filled with the bodies of Crusader knights who invaded Egypt before returning to England.
Then we have another round of like an exposition about some mummy lore.
We've been searching for something called the Dagger of Set. Set is the Egyptian god of death.
And then they finish the movie with like 5 more minutes of some more exposition shit.
You were wrong about Nick. He gave his life to save me.
But at great cost.
Where they're like, Tom Cruise, he has mummy powers now. And is he a monster? Is he a man?
He is a monster now.
He is also still a man. A good man.
At about an hour into the movie, Russell Crowe kidnaps Tom Cruise and he's like, hey, what's up? I'm Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Welcome to the cinematic universe that we're doing. I'm out here, and what I try and do is hunt down Universal's IPs. I mean monsters, and hopefully we can do a universe. Do you want to join our universe? I, as an audience member watching this scene, started clapping. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde are in the same universe as the Mummy. I've waited for this my entire life. Anyways, I'm done. That's it. That's it for this universe. I'm off to the next one. Oh wait, actually no. I should tell you about the aftermath for this thing. Where did this universe go? Nowhere. This is a prime example of executive producers trying to get directors to make something that nobody wants. And they got that pretty quickly, that nobody wants this, and they went back to doing standalone movies. I think the standalone Invisible Man movie that came out a few years after that, not with Johnny Depp, was pretty good. I remember liking it. Okay, off to the next cinematic universe. It's a widely known fact, but all of my last few Odoo sponsorship ad read segments are actually all in the same cinematic universe, including this one. This video is sponsored by Odoo. The story is this: Odoo is an all-in-one business software with tools for sales, marketing, and more. And I'm the main guy, and the story is how I love it. But specifically, I love talking about Odoo's website builder. It's an extremely easy tool to use. I know a lot of the people watching this video are maybe dabbled in the arts and stuff like that, and maybe you want to have an online portfolio for yourself, for your freelancing stuff. Odoo can help you with that. Maybe you want to make a blog page about how what I said about all of this being part of the same universe, how that's a lie. Maybe you want to talk about that online and besmirch my name. Odoo makes that task incredibly simple for you. And guess what? Use my link right now and the website building feature is free. They even throw in like hosting support and a custom domain for a year. So if you've been sitting at home all sad and confused being like, hey, how am I gonna make a website to support my business? I'm just a little guy. Odoo's got your back. Go to this link right here or click it in the description. I don't mind, you can do either. And build your website with Odoo today. Thank you, Odoo, for sponsoring this video.
It's Morbin time.
Okay, so I already did a whole video about the Sony cinematic universe. I don't really have a lot to add. It is weird though. They made a weird call with that one. A universe of Spider-Man villains with no Spider-Man? Are you crazy? I like the Venom movies. I haven't seen the latest one. But just God, the Morbius movie is such a boring thing. It's actually very similar in vibe to the Mummy. I think the Mummy's like a tad better. But what's else to say? Madam Web is some of the most fun I've had while watching a movie. Doesn't work on any level. Barely coherent. I'm like, what was going on here? What was the story? I need to learn more about how this was such a failure. Details haven't fully emerged yet, but I really want to know what they are. The cutoff point here, I think, was definitely Morbius. It's just boring. I'll say this, doing the whole, we're just doing the Spider-Man's villains without Spider-Man is a bit of a ridiculous concept. This could have been the chance to go for something that's pretty crazy, This was the chance for camp. True camp. And they kind of did that with the Venom movies, but then you go and you watch Morbius, and it's just like this corporate bleh. And then you go and see Madam Web, a movie that has truly went out of its way to deceive its audience in a way that I don't think should be fully legal. That's not even a joke. They were teasing all these like spider women in the trailer, and then the spider women are just a part of some guy's like vision of what might happen, but that doesn't happen at any point. They treated their audiences like a bunch of assholes, and yeah, of course no one showed up to see Kraven the Hunter. Come on.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
So going back to earlier, throughout my teenage years, I would not miss one MCU movie. I think I missed the Hulk. I don't fully remember, I was like 9 or whatever, but I'm pretty sure I missed the Hulk. But besides that, I would not miss them. I would go to every single one. It was such an event for me. Figuring out the cutoff point here is pretty interesting. I mean, Marvel is still, they still have a lot of movies that are making like $1 billion. They're fine, Disney is fine. The main difference here is that they used to be profitable on every movie, which isn't really the case anymore. The Marvels lost money, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania lost money. The main films that we see that do well for them right now, like Deadpool and Wolverine or the latest Spider-Man, do well because the existing brand is incredibly strong. So which one did it? Well, I think you wouldn't be necessarily wrong for saying that maybe it was Endgame. I actually think that's a pretty valid answer. The movie gave people a really solid cutoff point. And then after that, you were like, I don't think I need to watch every single one here. I kept following this whole thing for like a very long time. And I'm off. I'm gonna go get a real job. I'm gonna find a wife who loves me. We're gonna build a house together with our bare hands and live in the woods. That's what a lot of you said after watching that movie, and I respect you for it. But there's also another option here, and I think it's a bit more in theme with the rest of this video, so I'm gonna focus on that one. At the time that it was released, Eternals opened with the worst reviews for an MCU movie ever. 48% on Rotten Tomatoes. It went over budget, costing $272 million, almost $40 million more than projected, and made $402 million worldwide. Now, the way you kind of calculate it for if a movie made money or not is that you usually like take the movie's budget and then you double it, because that's usually how much a company puts in the marketing budget. And so if they didn't make over double 270, that probably means they lost money. That said, I doubt they put $270 million into the marketing budget of Eternals. It will probably be around 400 million, meaning they either lost money or very narrowly broke even. The release of this movie wasn't helped by the genuinely insane schedule that Marvel had at that year. Eternals was the third MCU movie in 2021, with No Way Home becoming the fourth in 2021. At the same time, 5 different MCU series were also released in that year, so people were really, I guess generally, couldn't keep up with it all. Another major reason people attribute to why this didn't do well was the bad reviews. People described the movie to be a little too formulaic, a bit boring, a bit too long. After I watched the movie, I made the joke that I was like, oh, the runtime of this movie was eternal. But then I looked up online and like about 1,000 people have made the same joke. So I retract it now. Some people did enjoy it though and felt like it was different to the usual Marvel output, but they were kind of in the minority. And you know what? I'm probably included in that group. I kind of liked it. Listen, I gotta say, they went for something with this, and that's a lot nowadays. Watching this movie, I was kind of surprised by how much the Eternals kind of really stands out for me amongst other Marvel movies. It feels creatively distinct. It doesn't really feel like what drags it down is this movie's corporateness. It's no Mummy 2017. And, thank God. Now, is it a particularly very fun movie to watch? Is it like a blast of a movie? I think it's interesting. I think it's often interesting, and I enjoyed some bits of it. It's all right. It's an all right kind of thing. I think this movie tries to go for something pretty grand. It's trying to tell the tale of like all these different superheroes that are pretty much also Greek gods. They're thousands of years of living on Earth through different historical eras. And that's a pretty like epic in scale story to tell. I think it achieves a bunch of things very well. The movie looks really good. One of the best looking superhero movies ever. I think tonally, this movie has this sort of, I guess, softness to it. A lot of people are speaking a bit more quietly. It has all these like, kind of coolish sort of colors. I found this movie's more quiet tone to be a pretty interesting thing amongst the superhero genre. I think the cast is generally good, with some pretty strong performances with some of them. I mean, I think they're good actors. They just didn't necessarily have the time to shine often. Angelina Jolie, pretty great in this, but like, she's on screen for like, 5-10 minutes. I watched that thing and I was like, I think she was there for like a day. I think they maybe couldn't have afforded her paying her more than a day. But then again, this movie, they paid like almost $300 million for this. Surely you could afford Miss Jolie for that money, Talking about the cast, I guess here we're already dipping into stuff that I liked a bit less. So, okay, while these are good actors, the chemistry between all of them wasn't particularly very good. And that is very important in my opinion in this movie, because there's a lot of talking in this thing. It's an almost 3-hour long movie, and there's so much talking. Considering these people have known each other for, like 5,000 years or so, you'd expect them to have like, you know, a bit more of a good dynamic of like, not expecting all of them to be buddies, but like just things need to flow a bit better between them, in my opinion. There's also about 1 billion of these guys. There's an eternal amount of Eternals. That's, I think, maybe a good alternative to the joke where like the runtime is eternal. Do you think this is a good alternative? I think they kind of wanted this to be, on some level, a thing that can come in and be here now after the Avengers have become a bit less relevant. I mean, specifically at that point, you know, they just did an Avengers movie, so there's going to be a bit of a pause before the next one. I guess the way of achieving that, I can't really lay my hand on this. I guess the way of achieving that is maybe having a cast that is as big as the existing Avengers cast. My other take is that while I think it's cool to show this whole tale, this saga of these gods throughout the centuries, that decision also led to the eternal runtime. And you know, you really feel it. Not all of those moments are particularly like insanely interesting, but overall, when I finished watching this movie, I'll say this, I didn't have that feeling of, I guess, like a deep grumpiness that I got after watching The Mummy or Suicide Squad, which I'm going to be talking about later. I think there was an actual artistic attempt here, and not all of it landed for me. That's okay. I think if it was released like 10 years before the moment that it did, it probably would have done very well. Now, even though this movie ends with a "The Eternals will return" title card, I don't think they are. So Marvel was like, hey, I don't think this is the next thing we can bank on after Endgame. So then they were like, hey, maybe we could go for this multiverse thing. But then, you know, everything happened with Kang, you know, with the shit that Jonathan Majors did, spiraling from one path to another until eventually being like, okay, let's just bring back Robert Downey Jr. A zigzagging maneuver that reminded me a lot more of a different franchise.
That's it. What, we some kind of Suicide Squad?
Uh-oh. Okay, let me start off by being nice. The original idea of having a superhero cinematic universe that's a bit more dark and gritty. I know I've said this word these adjectives like 1 billion times, but at that point when they decided to do that, it was probably a bit novel. It was an interesting contrast to a not yet so great MCU. Honestly, I like Man of Steel. I thought the tone of it was a pretty interesting decision. But it was what they did after that I don't think only screwed them over, but maybe soiled the ground for cinematic universes in general. I think that this is the cinematic universe that maybe ruined cinematic universes. It was just so exhausting. Like other examples from today, pretty rushed. You're doing a Superman movie, but then you're going straight into Batman v Superman. Why not give Batman his own movie? Why not? Let's see what that Batman can do. After that, they teased the next Justice League movie with a scene about an email. What are you doing? But okay, some people like that movie. Personally, not really my cup of tea. Whatever. But in the same year as Batman v Superman, they also decided to release...
What, we some kind of Suicide Squad?
Suicide Squad was the first ever time I went to the movies to see a superhero movie and was like, oh man, I really don't like this. I think I even hate this. I think I might say hate to describe this. I've obviously seen bad superhero movies before, but I think I was too young to understand, so this was like exactly the point where I sort of understood what a bad movie is well enough and didn't like the movie well enough for me to really have a bad time. I came in with like high hopes to watch this film. They went crazy with the marketing for this film. Every poster and like every little bit of visual that I saw before this came out was really cool and unique. There's this classic one right here. What do you guys think about this? Pretty cool. I think it's different than like a lot of other posters that came out at that time. Now, obviously, you know, it's connected to this movie. So now you might have like a lesser opinion of this. Okay, what about this one with the cereal? That's pretty cool. All right, that's pretty cool. Never wanted to eat a movie poster more in my entire life. Good job for the person who made that. I'm proud of you. And obviously, the trailer was huge. Let's have it play on the screen right now. I rewatched it for this video with the Bohemian Rhapsody track in the background, some pretty cool shots of our anti-heroes saying their one-liners.
We're bad guys. It's what we do.
And you know what? I think this could probably still trick me into thinking that I'm about to watch a really fun movie. It's a great trailer. I watched this trailer a lot when I was a teenager, and I remember going to the movie theater with so much excitement. It's like a Guardians of the Galaxy-esque team up of villains. The Joker's back. He's the Joker, baby. He looks a little bit weird, but I'm like, hey, you know, it's art. Let's give this a chance. The movie started, and I was like, oh no. Oh God, no. I've been tricked. The movie itself has absolutely none of the charisma that the trailer led me to believe that it has. There's no chemistry between these guys. It's edited badly. Hate Jared Leto's Joker. I know that there's like the Ayer cut, we're gonna talk about that, but I don't think you can cut this movie in a way that makes me enjoy that performance. Personally, you know, it's a subjective thing. It felt like a really long scene. That's the main memory I have from that. That it didn't feel like I have these, you know, ups and downs in terms of pacing, these like quieter moments to let you kind of cool down after a big action scene, you know, to like sort of get you on this sort of roller coaster. It didn't have that. It was just like, we're fighting some goons, and then we're fighting some goons, and then we're fighting some goons, and then we're fighting some goons. I saw this pretty frustrating podcast episode with David Ayer, which, you know, may, on some level, include the experiences of, you know, the people working on a bunch of the movies that we talked about today. I don't know that for a fact, but this is his experience directing this movie. How originally he was brought on to continue this darker original vision for this universe. But after the mixed reviews of Batman v Superman, and after the success of Deadpool, and although he doesn't mention it here, I think there's a little bit of, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy inspiration in there as well. Warner Brothers wanted to, very last minute, suddenly shift and lean into this like faster, quippy sort of style.
They never tested Batman versus Superman. So they put the movie out there and they never did a test. And they were expecting a different result, and then they got hammered by all the critics, and then it's like, okay, we're gonna turn David Ayer's dark, soulful movie into a comedy now.
And you know, you can sort of tell the movie has not a great vibe to it. It just feels like it's stretching itself from like this direction to that direction, all because some executives panicked and were like, oh, let's force this existing thing into a different thing. I don't know if the David Ayer cut would generally be something that I would like. Again, there's some key performances in this movie that I do not find enjoyable, but at least it would have been something that a creative person made, rather than a board's panicked decision. The marketing campaign I mentioned was quite successful. The movie made over $700 million in the box office, which I think is part of what caused this franchise to tank. You get millions of people into that room to watch, you know, that. You know, you tell them, hey, this is it. This is the DC universe. What do you think? It makes sense that people didn't show up for the next one. I think that the recent reboot in DC movies reflects a certain lesson, I hope. They brought in James Gunn to like be like, hey, let's let a director do something, hey? And as a pretty clear sign to the end of people obsessively having to stick to cinematic universe, he explicitly stated their interest in telling stories outside of that world, and also stories within that world that kind of have a different style perhaps, and don't feel confined to some weird made-up restrictions.
Every one of those things is going to be very different. It's a connected universe, but we're not imposing any sort of overall aesthetic.
It seems like there's a genuine reaction here from studios. I think there's like an overlap for now, you know? I don't know if it's gonna last for long. You see it with the plan for DC, you see it with the Thunderbolts trailer, where, you know, they're like, hey, check this out. This person worked on an A24 movie, and this person also worked on an A24 movie, and, you know, it's like a movie. We take pride in the fact that it's a movie and not a bunch of action figures bumping into each other. So yeah, I'm pretty hopeful for what's to come, because I enjoy blockbusters when they're fun. You know what I also enjoy? Being partnered with Nebula. I'm a Nebula partner now, and if you want, I'm posting one extra video there a month. I posted a video about Will Smith being back into rapping, and some of these weird reels and TikToks that this guy's been posting. I posted a video going about the process of making a sea shanty for my 9-month cruise video. I did a video about how I directed a music video for James Marriott. So, you know, that's all in the description. You can go check that out. And goodbye.